why the Karmelo Anthony case is not self-defense. In this video, I'll compare the conditions under which the Texas Stand Your Ground law applies versus the evidence stated in the official police report. I'll stay as objective as possible and only present the facts. This video is broken down into 3 parts. In part 1, I'll provide a recap of the incident on April the 2nd. In part 2, I'll review the Texas Stand Your Ground law guidelines versus the evidence in the police report, one by one. And in part 3, I'll discuss the possible charges and sentencing if Karmelo is found guilty in Texas. Part 1, a recap of the incident. On April the 2nd, 2025, a multi-high school track meet was taking place at the David K. Stadium in Frisco, Texas. During this time, Karmelo Anthony, a 17-year-old student from Centennial High, sporting Centennial High gear, went to the opposite side of the bleachers at the stadium, underneath a Memorial High School tent, apparently seeking shelter from the rain. Weather records for that day corroborates this. Heavy rain was expected. Austin Metcalf, a student from Memorial High School, approached Karmelo about being under their school's tent and asked him to leave. Karmelo refused to leave from underneath the tent, and a verbal dispute started. Karmelo stated, "Touch me and see what happens." Austin then laid hands on Karmelo. Karmelo then stated, "Punch me and see what happens." Austin then grabbed Karmelo to remove him from underneath the tent. Karmelo then responded to these actions from Austin by reaching in his bag and fatally stabbing him in the heart. Part 2, the Texas Stand Your Ground law guidelines versus the evidence in the police report, one by one. Texas is a Stand Your Ground law state, which is primarily codified in sections 9.31 and 9.32 of the Texas Penal Code. This law establishes that there is no duty to retreat before using force, including deadly force, in self-defense if certain conditions are met. Those conditions are what Karmelo's defense will have to prove he met in order for this to be self-defense. Condition 1. No duty to retreat. Legally, a person who has a right to be present at the location has no duty to retreat before using force. Case facts. Both Karmelo and Austin were high school students at a sporting event. The incident occurred under the Memorial High School tent. Austin told Karmelo he needed to leave the tent since he did not go to Memorial High School. Analysis. Texas law removes the duty to retreat, and although Anthony did not attend Memorial High School, he was not trespassing by being under the opposing team's tent. It is also reasonable that he sought shelter under the tent due to the rainy weather on April the 2nd. This one goes to Karmelo. Condition 2, not engaged in criminal activity. Legally, the person claiming self-defense must not have been engaging in criminal activity at the time of the incident. Case facts from the police report. Karmelo Anthony, as a 17-year-old minor, was in possession of what witnesses recalled as a black knife on school property. Karmelo was in violation of Texas law. Under Texas Penal Code 46.03, it is explicitly illegal for anyone, including minors, to intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly possess a knife on school premises, and violations involving school locations are classified as a felony. Additionally, Texas Penal Code 46.02 makes it illegal for a person under 18 to carry a knife if they aren't on their own property or in their own vehicle. Analysis. The fact that Anthony was engaging in criminal activity at the time of the incident, which was carrying a knife on school property as a minor, would disqualify him from claiming self-defense under Texas Stand Your Ground law. Texas law specifically requires that a person must not be engaging in criminal activity when using force in self-defense. By possessing a knife on school grounds as a minor, Karmelo was already in violation of Texas Penal Code 46.03 and 46.02, which would significantly undermine his ability to claim self-defense protections. Now this one goes against Karmelo Anthony. Condition 3, reasonable belief of an imminent threat. Legally, the person must reasonably believe that force is immediately necessary to protect themselves against another's use or attempted use of unlawful force. Case facts. According to the police report, Austin told Karmelo, quote, he needed to move out from under their team's tent because he did not go to Memorial and he had to leave a tent. That's according to page 4, Officer Fisher. Karmelo then grabbed his bag, opened it, and proceeded to tell Austin, "Touch me and see what happens." Austin proceeded to touch Karmelo, and then Karmelo told Austin to punch him and see what happens. A short time later, Austin grabbed Karmelo to tell him to move, and Karmelo pulled out what witnesses recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away, according to Officer Fisher on a police report. Analysis. The report does not establish that Karmelo was in immediate danger requiring the use of deadly force. The progression of statements from "touch me and see what happens" to "punch me and see what happens" suggests escalation and possible premeditation rather than a response to an imminent threat. While Austin did eventually grab Karmelo after these challenges, the report indicates this was in response to Karmelo's provocations. This interaction, as described by witnesses, likely does not constitute a threat requiring deadly force. This one goes against Karmelo. Condition 4. No provocation. Legally, the person claiming self-defense was not to provoke the other person's use of force. Case facts. Karmelo appears to have challenged Austin twice, first saying, "Touch me and see what happens," and then escalating that to "punch him and see what happens." These statements could be interpreted as provocation or an attempt to create a confrontation. Analysis. Karmelo's statement could be viewed as provocation or escalation of the situation. Under Texas law, someone who provokes an attack cannot then claim self-defense when responding with force. So this one goes, again, against Karmelo. Condition 5. Proportionality of force. Legally, the level of force used must be proportional to the threat faced. Deadly force is only justified against deadly force or to prevent certain violent crimes. Case facts. There's no evidence in the report that Austin had a weapon or threatened deadly force, and that's consistent across all officer accounts in the report. Austin's actions progressed from touching to grabbing Karmelo, but only after Karmelo's escalating challenges. Quote, Austin proceeded to touch Karmelo, according to the report, and later, Austin grabbed Karmelo and told him to move. Karmelo responded by pulling out what witnesses recalled as a black knife and stabbed Austin once in the chest and ran away. Once again, according to Officer Fisher's account and the police report. Analysis. The force used by Karmelo, deadly force with a knife, appears disproportionate to the threat posed by Austin, touching and grabbing him. Texas law requires that the amount of force used must be reasonable and proportional to the threat. Now this one, once again, goes against Karmelo Anthony. Condition 6. Prevention of violent crime. Legally, deadly force can be justified to prevent the imminent commission of aggravated kidnapping, murder, sexual assault, robbery, or aggravated robbery. Case facts. No evidence that Austin was attempting to commit any violent crimes. This is consistent with all the accounts from all the officers that's on this police report. The confrontation began when Austin told Karmelo he needed to move out from under their team's tent. Austin's actions of touching and then later grabbing Karmelo were in direct response to Karmelo's challenges. Challenges, if we recall, included touch me and see what happens, then he got touched. Then punch me and see what happens, then he got grabbed by Austin. Analysis. There's no indication in the police report that Karmelo was preventing any violent crime that would justify the use of deadly force under Texas law. Now for this one, I'm going to say it's going to go against Karmelo, but there is a angle, I guess they could go with this to say, there's any other witnesses that's not in the police report that can say that he was going to get jumped or there's something like that, maybe, but I'm going to have to go with this being against Karmelo. Part 3, potential charges and sentencing. So what charges and potential sentences could Karmelo face? Based on Texas law and the facts in the police report, he could face second-degree murder charges, which in Texas carries a sentence of 5 to 99 years or life in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. Alternatively, he might face first-degree murder if prosecutors can prove premeditation based on his statements and having a knife readily available. At a minimum, he he would likely face charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which is a second-degree felony in Texas, carrying 2 to 20 years in prison. Additionally, he could face separate charges for possessing a weapon on school property as a minor, which on its own is a felony offense. Due to his age, 17, he could be tried as an adult in Texas, though that will be at the court's discretion. To summarize why this is not a case of self-defense under Texas law, Karmelo was already engaged in criminal activity by possessing the knife on school property. He provoked the confrontation with his escalating challenges. He used disproportionate deadly force against non-deadly force. There was no reasonable belief of imminent danger requiring lethal force, and no violent crime was being committed against him at that time. While stand your ground laws do provide important protections for legitimate self-defense, they were never intended to shield individuals who bring weapons to school, provoke confrontations, and respond to being grabbed with lethal force. If you found this video helpful or you have some comments, please leave them down in the comment section below and be on the lookout for the next video.